phone, isn't it? Still isn't it?
Oh, well, we're here. It's Monday, 10:30 on, is it the 25th, 6th, 5th? 25th. So, gentle yoga. So if you're at home joining us, make sure you get whatever you need to have there. I don't plan to use a strap or anything, but get comfortable. Let yourself get easy in how you're sitting. So I want to sit in a chair today, but if you want to sit on the floor, by all means do, anytime. Let yourself use blankets if you need. And then just get yourself comfortable in how you're sitting, whether you're cross-legged or long-legged on the floor. But if you're in your chair, have your feet hips distance apart and parallel. And close your eyes. Let yourself very easily lengthen up through the top of your head. And let your hands be at a comfortable place for your shoulders, so you don't feel like your shoulders are rolling forward, right? The hands might need to move a little up or down your thighs, depending on how you're sitting. And then just breathe in and out through your nose. See if you can feel your breath coming into your belly. If you're comfortable to come towards those 3-part breaths, you can inhale into your belly, into your ribs, and then all the way up into your chest. And let your face be soft. As you watch your breath, let your jaw relax. And on your next exhale, let your arms release on out beside you. So if you're on the floor, fingertips can lightly touch the ground there. And let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse to inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now, inhale your arms straight forward of your shoulders, palms facing each other. And then just turn your hands over so the thumbs face down and the pinkies face up. And then bring your right hand on top so that you clasp your hands together here now. And then soften your shoulders down. Feel your palms squeezing gently towards each other. And then lower your hands down. Now you can keep looking at your hands. If you feel like you're okay to keep your hands going down and then bring them up and through that hole you've created and let yourself rest there with your forehead, maybe even resting on your hands, do. Otherwise, just keep your hands in front of you. Keep your arms long, that's fine. Let yourself breathe into between the shoulder blades on your back. And then send your hands on back down if they were up and through. Come on back forward of your chest with your hands. And now we're going to switch the hand that's on top. So just let yourself switch and squeeze your palms towards each other. Again, try to just feel that activation up into your shoulders. And then as you start to lower your hands down, you can watch them. You can stay right there without going any further. Or you can turn the hands kind of inside out, bring them on up. Maybe even if possible, letting your forehead rest right there on your hands, right between your eyebrows, resting on your hands. And then just release your face, your jaw. Again, letting everything soften there through the face. And then go ahead and send your hands back down. If they were up, bring them on forward and on up out from the chest again. Squeeze those palms together again. And then we'll undo our hands. Bring your hands straight out from your shoulders and flex them for a second here. Press out into the heels of the hands. And then let your hands circle in one direction real easily. and then stop and circle the other direction. And then stop again, make loose fists, and circle again in that first direction with the hands loose fisted, and then just reverse again. Let them go the other way. Good. And then releasing your arms on down beside you here now. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, let's twist to our left. Bring your right hand around towards your left knee. You know, you don't have to go that far. That's up to you. Lengthen up through the top of your head. Feel your sitting bones drawing down. So engage that low belly a little bit. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come on back through center, and we're going to go all the way around into the other direction. So again, just easily lengthening up. Feel the sit bones reaching down. That twist in the middle of your back. And one more breath. And on the exhale, come on back around into center again. And now let your hands come behind you. So if you're in your chair, you might just want to lean over into the back of the chair where you're supported at the base of your shoulder blades. If you're on the floor, you might want to just put your fingertips back there on the floor, or you might even want to go right flat on the hands there, back there. That depends on you and your shoulders. Now be easy in your neck. If it feels uncomfortable to lift your gaze up, look forward. If it feels pretty good to look up a little bit, or even all the way up to the ceiling, that's up to you. And then we'll come on back up, bring our chin down towards our chest. Let your head turn a little bit side to side. So you release your neck there. Good. And then bring the gaze on back up. If you are cross-legged on the floor, stretch your legs out for a second, even if you're in your chair maybe. And then when you come back to cross-legged, bring your other leg in front, right? So you just reposition there. And then again, letting our arms release on out beside us. Let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down to through the midline to rest in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse and inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now see if you can start to make little circles with your navel here. Now instead of this whole torso thing, not like we often do, see if you can isolate your navel. Think about making circles with it, right? They can be really tiny, inhaling as your navel comes forward, exhaling as it draws to the side and then back towards your spine. So try to keep circling in the same direction. Doesn't have to be a big movement, right? You can really try to isolate a little bit there. And then we're going to stop and try to go the other way with those little circles of the navel. And then finish off on back into center. And let's just come a little bit forward into a bit of a seated forward bend. Totally up to you, maybe an inch or two. If you're in your chair, you're welcome to separate your feet. Let your elbows rest above your knees if that feels more comfortable for you. On the floor, you can have your hands on the floor and walk further out if you want to. And of course, if you're in your chair and it feels good to come on forward between your legs and put your hands down, do. Just breathe. Good, so one more breath here. And as we start to rise up, we'll just take our time to come on back up to sitting. And then let your feet come on together. If you're in your chair, we're going to stretch our legs out in front of us here now. Flex your feet and let yourself really feel the back, the undersides of the legs there. And then point both your feet, really as fully as you can. Even kind of look at your feet. Try to make sure you're not curling your toes, right? It's like you're stretching your toes out long a little bit. And then go ahead and draw back into that flex, feeling the calves and the backs of the legs. And then see if you can point again. And imagine you're just reaching out through the tips of your toes. And then one more time, flexing through those feet. And then as you point, just let yourself imagine reaching out through the tips of the toes. And then we're going to release and come on down. We're going to make our way around towards our hands and knees right now. So if you know you don't want to be down on your knees on the floor, use your chair or whatever you have at home. If you're at home, coffee table for a long time. It's the perfect height, so if you're in a room where you have a coffee table, you can put your hands on that. If you're on the floor and you feel uncomfortable, grab a blanket to put underneath your knees. And take your time here now and get situated so your hands are comfortable, whether you have them in fists or have your hands spread wide. It's up to you. And then just start to ease your way through your cat-cow. Those exhales drawing you into that cat pose. Your inhales bringing you back to either neutral spine, or you can come through to cow. So take your time. Just let yourself very easily flow through your back. And there is no right or wrong here. You can stay in cat or cow. You can keep moving continuously with your breath. But really just almost, you're using this to like wake up the spine and all the muscles alongside the spine as well. So appreciate the fact that we have this kind of movement in our spines. We'll finish off and come back to more neutral spine here now. And now just look over your right shoulder and look back towards your feet back there. Let yourself just release into the left side of the body a little bit. And then come back to center and look over your left shoulder and look back that way so you feel a little more in the right side waist there. And then come on back into center, and we're going to step our left foot forward and our right foot back to come up into our first lunge. So the height that you have your hands for a lunge, totally up to you. Blocks any height, having your hands under your shoulders there. If you're on the chair, you might have your hands a little forward of your shoulders. Take your time, get really comfortable in the length of your stance. Feel your feet in the floor, and just enjoy now. Feel your whole body lengthening out here. Good, and we're going to switch and go to the other leg. So as that right foot steps forward and the left foot is back, take your time again. Get that sense of alignment there up into your hips. Let that left heel reach directly behind your foot. And again, feel that length now through the whole body. And be comfortable where your head is. You know, make sure you're not lifting your chin to tighten up the back of the neck. Feel that length. And we're going to switch again. So if you feel like rising up a hand or hands once you're in your lunge, if that left hand or forearm wants to come up to your thigh, you can. That's up to you. And then we're going to switch again. And once that right foot is forward, you get really established in your lunge. The idea of whether you want to bring the right hand or forearm up to your thigh is totally up to you. Good. And then from here, let's step forward. Come on into your standing forward bend with your feet hips distance apart and parallel. Whatever kind of support you need under your hands. So if you need a long back, stay up higher, right? Now walk a little bit. Bend one knee at a time. Now as you bend the knee to walk through your standing forward bend, see if you can lift the heel of that bent knee too. So you're actually working into your feet. I mean, you can make it as extreme as you want. You know, you can lift that heel up way high and really feel the toes into the floor there, working through, or you can let it be really low just so you feel a little bit more there into the feet. It depends on how your feet feel. And then finish off to come on back now. Both feet are down. Bend your knees a little bit. Take your time, whether you need support of elbows above the knees or resting your hands on your chair or your blocks, or maybe you feel like you want to let yourself release hands towards the floor. That's up to you. Full breaths. Maybe move your head around a little bit so you know you're kind of letting go there in your neck. Feeling the weight of the head. Nice. And then we'll bring our hands on up to our hips as we bend our knees. We'll rise on up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. So take your time. If you need to adjust into your mountain pose, starting in your feet, do. Bend your knees a little bit. Feel equal as you press the floor gently away from you, bringing your gaze on forward and out. Actually, for a second here, let your head tilt a little bit to the right ear towards your right shoulder. And then bring yourself on back up to the top and tilt the other way. And then bring yourself on back like you have the top of the head reaching up towards the ceiling. Spread your fingers out. Really feel that soft connection in your fingers. So you're not pressing really hard, but you definitely feel connected through each finger and your thumbs and whatever part of your palms are touching. Feet equally into the floor. Tailbone gently dropping down towards between your heels. And imagine your head is just floating up in the clouds in your mountain pose. And now as we unfold our arms on down beside us, really feel your feet in the floor as you inhale your arms all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend your knees, come forward into your standing forward bend. And on your next inhale, find a nice long flat back. Does not matter where your hands want to go to, your legs, your shins there, or the blocks, or the chair. And we'll step the right foot back and come into lunge. So press the feet away from each other. Really draw your shoulders down away from your ears. And we're going to make our way into a downward facing dog pose. So your choice, where you like your hands to go, adjust as you walk back into dog. Feel your elbows softly hugging towards each other. If you need to walk your dog, go right ahead and bend a knee at a time, or bend both knees at the same time if that feels good too. Just take your time. Find enjoy. Enjoy that length of your spine here now. And then on the next inhale, we'll come out towards a plank. Now this is always optional, whether you come down to your forearms. So if your wrists bother you, you can come onto your forearms to do a plank. You can, if you want, let yourself put your knees down and do a half plank. Engage your belly. Feel your sitting bones reaching for your heels. And then we're going to come on back again into down dog. So take your time as you reach back again. Find that dog. And we'll bring our right foot forward from here to come into lunge, and you can put your left knee down if you need to get there. And draw your shoulders down. Bring the back of your head in line with your spine. And then we'll step forward to come on into standing forward bend again. So again, wherever you need to go with support. Coming into your breaths now. So watching your breath all the way in and out. One more breath here. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips, bend our knees, and rise straight on up to standing, inhaling the arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Let's unfold our arms. Inhale, just your right arm all the way out and up overhead. And then bend your elbow. Let your hand come down wherever your shoulder lets you, right? And that's different for everybody. If you feel really good to bring the left arm up and over the top, you can put your left hand on that right elbow. Now, don't think about pulling harshly. It's just a little bit added extra to open up through your tricep there, your right tricep. So just be mindful. Feel your tailbone still dropping down towards between your heels. Make sure you're not locking your knees out, right? One more breath. And then we're going to lower the left arm down, stretch the right arm back up long here, and we're going to come over into a side stretch. So breathing into that right side. Let yourself feel the ribs expand. And for a second, let your head turn a little bit so you're thinking of looking down towards the ground. And then see if you can kind of draw your chin in towards your chest a little bit from there. And then we'll rise on back up, come on back into center. We're going to lower that right arm down. And we're going to inhale the left arm all the way out and up. Bend the elbow. Again, once this happens, this is different for everybody. If your elbow needs to come out or forward, do. If you like to bring the right arm up and over the top, you can hold on to that elbow there. Obviously, don't push it. Keep your gaze forward. Let yourself just be mindful of feeling that sense of the tailbone dropping down still between your heels, not tucking forward. Good. And now we're going to bring that right arm down, stretch the left arm up, and we're going to come over into that side stretch on the other side. Up and just breathe into the ribs there. Feel the left foot on the floor. Particularly press down into that left foot a little bit. One more breath. And then we'll inhale both arms up into a nice wide open V. Turn your pinkies towards each other. Let it be pretty wide and feel that sense of ease as you lift the gaze up just a little bit here. Inhale. And on the exhale, we'll bend our knees and come forward into that standing forward bend. And let your next inhale help you find that flat back again, wherever you want your hands to be. This time, left foot steps back to come into lunge. Good. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So again, be mindful. Let your elbows hug inward. If you need to walk your dog, do. See if you can imagine being as equal feeling between the sides of the body as you can, all the way from your hands, up through your arms and your shoulders, and then all the way through the sides of the body and out your sitting bones. And on the next inhale, we'll come out to plank. Take your time. Again, you need to come to forearms, do it. If you like to bend your elbows and do little push-ups, you can let yourself come a little more into strong arms here. You can stay in your plank. Think about the core. Good. And then we're going to come on back into down dog again. And this time, left foot will come forward to find lunge. So again, if you need to bring that right knee down to get the left knee forward, do it. And then we'll step all the way back into standing forward, bend feet under us. If you can lift your toes up briefly, do. Some of you might even want to put your hands and hold on to your toes and kind of squeeze them a little bit so your fingers come under the toes and your thumbs are kind of on top there, and your palms are on top. But you don't need to do that. You can even give your toes a little massage if you want. One more breath here. And then we'll release our hands up to our hips. Bend our knees. Press into our feet and rise up. We're going to inhale both arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Let's unfold our arms, take our hands behind us, and clasp your hands. Now for a second, bend your elbows enough to squeeze your palms together. And you know, if this hurts your shoulder, don't do it. I mean, you'll feel your biceps, you'll feel it in your shoulders too. So if it hurts at all, don't do it. And then go ahead and let the arms come longer. Let the palms come apart, but you're still interlaced at your fingers. Inhaling here. And on the exhale, bend your knees as you come forward and stop when you're parallel to the floor with your body. So you're reaching back through your tailbone. See if you can just softly hug your elbows upward a little bit so your chest kind of reaches down a little more. Lengthen out through the crown of your head. Reach back through your tailbone. Now, if you're okay to fold forward more, go right ahead and do it. If you can fold over your legs without bothering your back. And then if your arms want to come away from your back, anywhere you are, do it. So you can be parallel to the floor and try to lift them up. Or you can be folded forward. One more breath. Feel your feet equally into the floor. And then we'll release our arms on down and let your next inhale help you find that nice long back. And we're going to walk into a down dog from here. Whatever height you want your hands to be. Walk your way back from there. Find your dog. Let yourself walk a little bit. Bend one knee at a time. Feel your elbows hugging towards each other. And on the next inhale, we'll come on out to plank. Now you can add a back bend here only if you want. So if you are on the floor and you'd rather come up into a sphinx, you can come up onto your forearms and be in a sphinx, right? Or you can have your hands on the floor, come up just a little bit in towards a cobra, or you can come on up in towards an up dog if you choose. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. So take your time. Walk again if you need to. And we're going to do that same thing. We'll come on out to plank. Totally optional whether you want to even do a back bend at all and what kind. So if you do, you can make your way into either that Sphinx or Cobra or that dog. And then you can make your way back again into down dog. And from here, we will bring the right foot forward to find lunge. So if you need your left knee down to help you do, press the feet away from each other. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. And we're going to step forward from here, back to our standing forward bend. Back to full deep breaths. Those of you who are fine to hold your elbows, if that feels good, go right ahead. Let your hands just rest gently on your elbows. Following your breaths. Really find those little spaces between your breaths for a couple of deep breaths so that you feel like you're resting in the little spaces between your breaths. And then we'll press into our feet here. Bring our hands on up to our hips and rise up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Bringing your gaze on forward and out, whether your eyes are opened or closed. Coming into your mountain pose here now. Just envision that you're looking right on out towards the horizon. Feeling the sense of the space around you. And the idea of being equally grounded through your feet. Good. And then we'll release our hands on down. Shake out a little bit. Move around if you need to, through your feet. If you ever need to move through your feet too. We're going to come into some warriors. So if you're using your chair, you might want to turn the back of it around to face you. Do have both your blocks handy here, in case you want them. We're going to step our right foot back and we're going to come into warrior one. So facing that short edge of your mat, if your chair's there, you can keep your hands on it so that you can really get yourself squared around with your shoulders. And then once you feel like that back foot is in a fine place, let your hands come to your heart. Now just for fun, you want your shoulders to be over your hips here, just for a little bit of a different feeling. Lean your body forward, like you're making a long diagonal line down the back of the body. Yeah? And then on your next inhale, come on back to where you're right looking forward. You have your shoulders over your hips. Feel that zip up of the low belly. We're going to release our arms on down beside us. We're going to bring them forward and rise them up. Now you can separate your hands further. You can bring them on up. If you want to clasp your hands together, send your pointer finger out, and hug your elbows in towards your face. That feels good for your shoulders, you can do it. Keeping the hands apart if that feels better for your shoulders. So find where you can be. Feel that uplift in the front of the body. Imagine you have a bar right at the base of your shoulder blades and it's just supporting you there. So you feel a lift from there. The belly is engaging, the low back is lengthened. One more breath. And then we're going to lower our arms on down. We're going to straighten that front knee out and we're going to come on forward for pyramid. So slowly start to bring yourself forward. When you're ready to put your hands down, you pick how high you want to be for your hands. You can be up on the back of that chair. You can go down to the seat of the chair, or you can put your hands down on blocks, of course. Now take your time, adjust that back foot or both feet if you need to. So you've got this sense of being really level in your hips, really squared off. Thighs are engaging up towards the hips. Now, as you fold a little bit towards pyramid, a little bit further with the body, you decide how much you want to go. Maybe just a little bit, or maybe you want to go ahead and bow over your front leg. Don't push it, right? Let it feel really easy. Just allowing, as the thighs lift upward, allowing that sense of space in your knees and allowing the backs of the legs to open up. One more breath. And now bend your front knee. We're going to come back to warrior one. So you're going to have to think about using your belly, your core, to bring you all the way back up, hands to the heart, into your warrior one pose. And then we'll release our arms down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel for a wide-legged forward bend here now. So take your time, grab blocks if you need. As you come on forward, if you know your back needs for you to be up higher, grab your blocks. And then take your time, adjust your stance, bend a knee at a time if that helps you kind of get how far apart you want your feet, right? That is totally up to you. And then once you get settled in a little bit, let both knees bend. And imagine you're trying to lengthen your mat with your feet. Press your feet away from each other and imagine that your inner thighs are melting their way back behind you. Now you can stay up on blocks, you can stack them and get out of your hands if you want, so you keep your back long. Or you can go ahead and fold forward if that feels good to you. If you feel better to allow yourself to release, top of the head towards the ground, by all means do. Just watch those breaths now, all the way in and out. Let your face soften. Good. One more full deep breath here, feeling your ribs expand as you inhale. And we're going to make our way up, so you must take your time about doing that. Your own time, your own way to get up too, right? So easing your way on up, and then bring your feet together, walk around a little bit before we do the other side. So this time we're going to step our left foot back. So again, you can use your chair, you can have your hands on that chair. You know how far you step your left foot back. You know, it might be 2 feet, it might be 3 feet, it might be 4 feet. You have to find the length of stance that feels really good for you so you can keep grounded in that back foot. Turned out slightly, that back foot, right? And then feel your arches lifting up. Bring your hands to your heart. Feel that kind of zip up through the front of your body here now. Now lean a little bit again, forward with your torso, like you're making this long line down the back of your body. Feel how your legs obviously engage a little deeper. And now slowly come on back up so that you get your shoulders right there, again above your hips. Feel the zip up of the low belly. We're going to release our arms down beside us. We're going to inhale forward, rise them up. Now you can separate them further. You can bring your hands together if you want. Send your pointer finger up. Feel that lift in the front of the body. Whether your hands are apart or together, it doesn't matter. Again, imagine a bar at the base of your shoulder blades. Like it's supporting you right there at the base of the shoulder blades. Which takes the emphasis out of anything happening in the low back. The low back's lengthened, the belly's lifted. And you can just lean back over whatever that is, right back there supporting you at your shoulder blade level. One more breath. And then we'll release our arms on down. We're going to straighten that front knee out. And we're going to start to come on forward. If you need some support, use it. You know, if you feel unsteady, put your hands on your chair, on the back of the chair. You can put your hands down to the seat of the chair. You may decide you want to bring your hands to blocks any height. And you can also adjust your stance once you get your hands down there. Thighs lifting up towards the hips. See if you can think of your tailbone reaching back a little further, right? Which gives you a little more length there in the low back. Now, if you want to fold over, you can, but don't force it. Keeping the legs active. One more breath. Now come back up with the body. As you bend that front knee, we're going to rise back to warrior one. So pressing the feet away from each other, maybe getting yourself right on back up into your warrior one. Hands to your heart. And then we'll bring our hands down. We're going to turn again to face the long side of the mat. Adjust your stance for your wide-legged forward bend. And again, get your blocks if you want them. And this time, as you start to bend a knee at a time. Just let it be really easy. Remember, you're trying to get your feet pretty parallel to each other, but that all depends on your hips. So if you need to turn your toes out a tiny little bit, do it. Try to find what you can there for your inner thighs as you bend one knee and come into that long leg, shifting back and forth. Good. And then again, when you're ready to come to center, that is up to you whether you let yourself stay with your back long, coming into hands or forearms on the blocks so that your back is lengthened out, or bringing your hands back more towards between your feet, or holding your ankles if that feels good, or even letting your hands walk behind you if you want that sense of bringing yourself even more kind of towards between your legs. You know, we're all very different. Be where you can so that you can release the upper body in the pose. Imagine your arches are lifting up. 4 corners of your feet are in the ground. And then following that breath all the way in and out. Good. One more breath. And as you get ready to rise up, you know it is up to you. Hands can be on your thighs to help you press up. You can bring your feet closer together first, and then you can bend your knees and walk around a little bit. And take your time there. We're going to go into Warrior 2 this time. So, again, get your blocks handy. If you moved them over to the side, have them at the front of your mat in case you want them. And we'll step our right foot back again this time and come into Warrior 2. So that whole length of stance thing is the same in Warrior 2, whether your feet are 2 feet apart, 3 feet, 4 feet, right? Get comfortable so that when you bend that left knee, you feel really good about the alignment, the knee's not going out beyond your toes. Let yourself float your arms on up higher than your shoulders with your hands for a second, quite a bit higher. Your palms are still down. Now the tendency is to kind of let the shoulders rise up. Let your shoulders really release down. And then start to lower your hands enough to where when you turn to look out over the top of that left hand, it feels really good. You have length in the back of your neck and your throat. You can feel that sense of energy reaching out through both sets of fingertips. Nice job. Bringing the right hand down to the hip. We're going to straighten the left knee out and bring the left hand down for triangle. Now, you may want to put it right there on the back of your chair. That's a triangle. You don't have to let yourself go really low. And you certainly don't want to collapse in the underside of your body. You want to keep the spine lengthened. Let that left hand give you support on a block or a chair or on your leg. And if you want to add that right arm up, you can send the right hand straight up from your shoulder with the palm facing forward. Now, if that doesn't feel good, don't do it. Keep your hand down. One more breath. Thighs lift up towards the hips. Good. And then we're going to bend the left knee and come on back into Warrior 2. Press those feet away from each other as we come. And now let your hands come down. Bring your hands behind you and clasp them. Okay, we're going to turn a little bit. Our right shoulder is going to turn forward. And we're going to think about bowing either our head, just kind of forward over that inner left leg. Or some of you may want to bow yourself farther over that inner leg. Let yourself fold over the inner thigh. Maybe even letting your arms come off your back. That is totally optional. Staying up high, letting just your head bow a little bit is fine. One more breath. And now you're looking down towards the floor. We're going to turn into a lunge. So you may want to grab your blocks or the chair to put underneath your hands as you find a lunge here. Straighten the left knee out in that lunge for a second. Let yourself just release the right heel back towards the mat behind you. And then bend your left knee again back to lunge. And we're going to add twists, bringing our left hand to our left hip and rotating that shoulder up. Hand can stay there on your low back, or you can stretch the left arm up if you choose to. Totally up to you. You know that. One more breath. And then we'll come on back down with that hand. We're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us. Now, what you do, kind of ground your hands on something, either blocks or the chair, and lift your right foot up and let it circle. Just move through the foot and the ankle a little bit. And then put it on back down and bend that right knee as you lift the left foot up and the knees bend. Foot's kind of behind you. Like, you know, a horse's foot was picked up, right? That kind of feeling. And then go ahead and put your feet back down. Bend both your knees fairly deeply. Press gently into your feet. And then bring your hands to your hips. We're going to rise on up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Find your mountain pose. Feel your tailbone reaching down towards between your heels. You know, make sure you're not locking your knees, but you're still engaging your legs. Thighs lift upward. And then we'll let our arms come on down. Shake out a little bit again, because we're going to go the other side. So this time it'll be the left foot that steps back for warrior two. Again, as you come into your warrior two, you get those heels lined up. Bend that front knee. Make sure you're okay with that. It's not coming inward. It's not going out beyond your toes. Float your hands up higher, quite a bit higher than your shoulders, right? So you can lift your shoulders for a second up when they're up there, and then really feel the shoulders melt down. And then as the hands lower, it becomes even easier as you come to look out over the top of that right hand, as you're reaching equally back through the left fingertips. Nice. Imagine your feet are equal in the floor. Good. We're going to bring our left hand down to our hip. We're going to straighten our right knee out and bring our right hand down for a triangle. So again, that hand can be up as high as you want, up onto the seat of a chair. If you're in your kitchen at home, you can use your kitchen counter to put your hand on and lengthen out. And you can stretch that left arm up or not, straight up from your shoulder. Some of you may even experiment with turning to look up at that hand if you want to. That's up to you. One more breath. And then we're going to bend that right knee. We're going to come on back into warrior two. Press those feet away from each other as you come. And lower your arms down. Clasp your hands behind you. Okay, now remember, turning a little bit with this left shoulder coming around, you might just want to bow your head a little bit. That might be sufficient. If you feel like, well, I want to try to go a little bit lower, you can let yourself kind of fold forward over that inner thigh, maybe even letting your head hang or your arms come off your back. And don't do that if it's too much. Now you're already looking down at the floor. We're going to think of getting into a lunge from here. So releasing your hands to come to the height you want them for your lunge, and then letting that left heel release directly behind your foot. So you've come into your lunge here. Now straightening the right knee out. Let yourself just enjoy the backs of the legs for a little bit more here. So that right knee is straight. The left heel is just descending straight down towards the floor. And then you're going to bend the right knee. Come on back into your lunge. We're going to add a twist. Right hand is going to come up to the right hip. And we're going to roll that shoulder up. You know, you can keep your hand down, or you can stretch the arm up. So take your time, lengthen out through the top of the head, reach back through that inner left heel. And then bringing your hands on back down. We're going to step forward. Get your feet right underneath you. Come into your standing forward bend, however you choose. So you can hold your elbows, or you can put your hands on support or your forearms on support. And just breathe. Feel your sitting bones over your heels. One more breath. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips. We're going to bend the knees to rise up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Finding your mountain pose, adjust how you need. Let yourself take your time there. If you need to sway around a little bit, do. Good. And then we'll let our arms come on down. Shake out a little bit. Take your time. We are going to, here at the studio, bring our mats into a wall. So letting the short edge of your mat come into the wall. And grab your blocks. And you may or may not want to use the back wall. I'm looking around in here. You all have room, I think. I don't know if you'll be too long for that wall. But if we're going to do a half moon pose. So remember, I'll show you quickly. And for those of you at home, if you have a wall behind you, you can use it to put your hand down on a block and be with a ball at your back. And let yourself have your hand on the block. You're standing on the same foot that the hand is down. And then you can just let that back leg. You don't want it to go way, way high, right? It wants to be about straight out from your hip. And you can let the wall support you. Now the other thing you can do is put your back foot in the wall. So those of you here who have had practice in the studio, or those of you at home, same way. You can, if you choose, decide to put your back foot to the wall, open the toes away from the floor, and come into half moon that way, where you're supported not at your back, but just the foot pressing into the wall. So you pick. You do have room there. And you do have room, and you have room. Oh, and you barely have room. So take your time, flex that back foot. So you're pulling the toes. Think about the toes facing slightly down towards the floor too. Yeah. And the foot that you're standing on is parallel to the wall if you're at the wall, okay? So you don't want your toes to turn out. You don't want them to turn in. You want the toes to face directly forward. Now when you've had enough, you're going to come on up and you're going to switch and go the other side. Surprised you guys wanted to stay that long. Never need to wait for me to tell you to come down, remember. So take your time, let yourself, this is obviously a big hip opening pose. If you've got your alignment there with your hand right under your shoulder, you can let yourself kind of lean back into the wall. Whether you decide to bring that top hand up is up to you. And if you decide you want to turn to look up a little bit, that's even an added extra, let me tell you. The good part about it is if your head's in the wall, it kind of gives your neck release. So if you were doing this freestanding, can you imagine trying to look up towards the ceiling? Very difficult pose when you're freestanding, but the wall is just awesome. So if you haven't already come down and you want to, do it. Take your feet a little bit away from the wall, maybe 18 inches or 2 feet. Bend your knees slightly and let yourself just release your back into the wall. Turn your palms out towards the center of the room and the backs of the hands. Let them press into the wall a little bit. Now you can go lower if you feel like, oh, I want to feel a little more in my quads. You can let yourself sink down lower. And you're not trying to tuck your tailbone forward, right? Your tailbone's reaching down. So there's a natural curve, different amount of space for each of us in that low back. Good. We're going to turn, straighten our legs up, walk on in, turn around to the wall now, and come onto your forearms. Let yourself get your elbows right forward of your shoulders. You're in a plank, like a forearm plank. Actually, if you can clasp your hands and send that pinky finger out, and you've got your thumbs, right, one thumb's on top of the other, see if you can, for a second, release your forehead onto your hands. That might be like the hairline, right there at the top of your forehead. It depends on you, right? But just let your head rest there for a second. Press into the forearms. Feel the elbows hugging towards each other. And then, as you imagine you're hugging in, feel your armpits hollow out. See if you can softly lift your head up off your hands. Keep pressing into the wall like you're trying to push it away. Feel your elbows hugging in that hollowing. Now you may want to stay right here. It is like a forearm plank on the floor, just not quite as extreme. If you want to go towards a dolphin, you can bend your knees, slide your forearms lower, and then straighten your legs out and send your hips back so that you have a totally different angle in your shoulders, right? And actually, a dolphin at the wall is often more extreme than a dolphin on the floor. I mean, you can even come low enough to where your torso is parallel to the floor, which really puts a lot into the shoulders. So don't do it if it's too much. Come back to your forearm plank. Don't come into that angle in the shoulders if it's too much for you. Good. And then finish off. Let yourself come on back up. And bring your arms, turn on around, bring your arms in front of you. Give yourself a real easy hug. Let your chin come down towards your chest. And then let your head just roll a little bit side to side. So you really let go. And then undo your arms and do the other arm on top. Okay, let yourself then just easily. You can even, if you want, you can even kind of let yourself move through like this, move through the upper body so that you maybe find a little bit more release. And then we'll come on back and let ourselves release, shake out a little bit. We're going to come down to our bellies on the floor, all right? So come on down and let yourself bring your forearms underneath you so that you're on your elbows into a sphinx pose here at first, unless it's too much, right? You can always bring elbows back, let your head come lower. If this feels like a relief, coming into that full sphinx pose, do, but just be mindful, let it feel good. Now if you can, press gently into the top of your toes and engage your belly a little bit more. So the tailbone curls down just a little bit more. Good. And now lower your torso enough to turn your left forearm parallel to the front edge of your mat and bend your right knee. And then see about, maybe you want to reach back and get your foot, maybe you don't. If you don't, you can try it and see what you would think about reaching back to get your foot. If not, just put your right hand right back on the floor and let yourself stay there in your half bow. If you've got the foot, you can pull a little bit inward so you stretch your quad out a little bit. And then you can decide that you're going to press your foot into your hand or your ankle into your hand, depending on what you're holding, right? Just one more breath. Open up across the right side of the chest, too. Good. Then come on back down. We're going to bring the right arm in parallel to the front edge of the mat. And then bend that left knee. And let yourself again. Maybe that's it. You can pretend you're going to reach back, and if your shoulder is like, no, you're not going to do that. Just bring your hand back to the floor. Or you can reach back, get hold of the foot or the ankle. Now, if you feel inclined to pull the heel in towards the buttocks without resisting it, you can do that. And then, of course, when you do the opposite, you push the foot towards your hand. There you are into your half bow. You can come up a little higher if you want in the upper body. Good. And then we're going to release. Bring both arms down alongside the body. And let yourself inhale into a locust pose, floating everything you can up off the floor. Reaching your fingertips and toes back towards the wall behind you. Good. And then release, come down. We're going to shift back towards pose of a child. So it depends on you how far you go. You can stay much forward on your forearms. You can shift your hips back towards your heels. You can make a pillow with your hands or your arms if you want to rest your head on there. Or you can put your arms back behind you, beside your legs with the palms up if that feels good. So breathing into your low back. So feeling that expansion of the low back as you inhale. we're going to let our hands now come by our knees. If you can press your way up, you make your way out of child's pose however you need to stretch your legs on around in front of you. And if you need to sit up on a blanket, grab one and do it. Stretch your legs on out and move through a little bit. Good. And now, you may want to sit up on a blanket for this one. This is up to you. We're going to bring our right leg in. So everybody hold on to their right leg behind your thigh. Now, what this left leg is going to do when you come into Heron is going to be up to you. So leaning back just a little bit, lifting your foot up off the floor and sending it forward. Now, you may decide, I just need to let myself kind of hold right here behind my thigh. I know some of you will want to reach down to get your foot. You can hold on to the outside and the inside of that right foot, if you can, with the knee bent, you know. You don't even have to come into like a really straight leg here. That's up to you. Now the other thing is, if it feels better to fold that left leg underneath you instead of having it long, and it might, you know, just depends on you, then you can do that. If you're like, well, there's no way I'm going to do that, I'm going to hold on behind my thigh, then let yourself be where you can. It can be lower, it can be low with the leg. You can bring that foot up, bring your gaze up over the top of the foot if you want to. Let yourself be where you can. Good. One more breath. And then bend the knee, put the foot back on the floor, and then just bow your head for a second. Let yourself release there. And then we're going to come on up and we're going to switch to the other side. So again, you might want your right leg long. You might want it folded up under you. That really depends on you. Hold behind your thigh, kind of lean back a little bit. Foot's off the floor. So maybe it's going to stay here. You're going to use your hands, especially if this bothers your shoulders, to hook your arm under your leg there. Don't do it. Or reaching to your foot. And again, kind of deciding, well, you know, and you can do both. You can hold both behind your leg and your foot if you want. That's up to you. Just kind of play with it and find where you can be, right? Doesn't need to look like anything. It just needs to be where you feel that length through your spine, and you're obviously getting into the back of that leg. So even if the leg is low here, low or even to the ground almost, there's a lot of work going on. Even that lift through the front of the body there. So take your time. One more breath. And then as you bend the knee, bring the foot down. Go ahead and bow your head for a second. Let it release. Let your back release a little bit. Good. And then come on up. Grab a couple of blocks. And let the blocks be behind you. Maybe try the lowest height. All right? So if you can, now if this bothers your shoulders, don't do it. And you got to kind of adjust your blocks to where when you bring your forearms back onto the blocks, right, it feels kind of good. Now you don't want to do this. You don't want to sink like that, right, into your shoulders. Instead, you want to think about the chest coming up and imagine that you're just kind of drawing you're pressing down on those blocks, drawing your shoulders down and back a little bit. Now, if your neck bothers you, look forward, because you can still do this without dropping your head and look back. Some people feel better without blocks going to the floor. So if you want, you can bring your forearms to the floor, or even you can go down to the top of your head being on the floor in a full fish pose, right? That is just so not for everybody. That used to be my very least favorite thing in the whole wide world. It's getting a little less least favorite, but so take your time. Be where you can. One more breath. And now we are going to slowly come all the way down to the floor on our back. So get rid of everything that's in your way. Bring yourself on down. Once you're there, bring your right knee in towards your chest and extend your left leg down long on the floor. Flex through both your feet. Feel that right leg gently coming into your hands, like you're pressing your leg back into your hands a little bit. Good, and then bend your left knee, put your left foot on the floor, cross your right ankle above your left knee. And you can decide here if you want to keep your left foot on the floor or draw the left knee in to clasp behind your left thigh. So both feet are flexing if they're both up. If you're keeping your left foot on the floor, just let the hip open naturally, keeping that left foot on the floor and just flexing the right foot. So stay here for a couple of breaths. Now, anybody who wants to extend the left leg up long, you can, which kind of takes the stretch out of that right hip, but it also feels really good to stretch out the back of that left leg there. And then bend the left knee again. One more breath here. And then we'll bring the left foot back down to the floor, uncross your legs, and bring your left knee into your chest. And extend your right leg down long on the floor. Flex through both the feet. You're pressing that left leg gently into your hands. Take your time. Let that low back just come into its natural curve. And then bring the right foot back to the floor. Cross your left ankle above your right knee here. Flex through that left foot. You may be content to stay right there. You can always encourage your left thigh away from you. Or you might want to draw the right knee in, clasp behind your right thigh, and let yourself flex through both feet here. Keep breathing. And then those of you who like to extend that right leg up long, if you choose to, you can. You don't need to. And then if you did lengthen that right leg, go ahead and bend it again. One more breath there into that left hip. You can always draw the thigh in more towards you if you can. And then go ahead and release your right foot down. Uncross. Good. And then bring both knees in towards your chest. Send the feet up for a little happy baby. Doesn't matter how far apart you go. Maybe you don't even want to reach up for your feet. Maybe you just want to roll a little bit. If you want to get hold of the outside of the legs or hold on to the feet up there, take your time. And then we'll bring our feet on down to the floor. Let's separate our feet wider, a little bit wider on our mats. Actually, this is up to you. We're just going to let our knees go side to side for a little twist here. So how far apart you have your feet really depends on you, how it feels for you. So take your time. You can stay on one side, let the body adjust. You can keep moving back and forth, inhaling your knees up and exhaling them to the side. Just start to listen to your own body here and what it needs to do. There might be something entirely, after you do a few of those little twists, there might be something else entirely that sounds good to you to do. So if that's the case, by all means, follow your natural inclination there so that your body can be a little more easy about coming into Shavasana. I'm going to start to move around here and bring things, bolsters, blankets. So those of you at home, if you don't have a bolster, but you feel when you lie on your back that a bit of support underneath your knees would help you, you can bring a rolled blanket or maybe a couple of pillows if they're really not very firm underneath the backs of your legs. You're welcome. You can also, if you feel chilly, let me know in here and I can bring you blankets. Blanket or a little bit of a fold of a blanket underneath the back of your head too, if that sounds like a good idea to help your neck release. So feeling that sense of being able just to allow yourself to release down into the floor, accepting your breaths in and out. And appreciate there's nothing you need to be doing right now. Just being with your own breath. And when you start to think, your mind goes wandering off into thinking, just keep returning back to your breath. Feeling how the body quiets in response to your breath. And it's like a gift to have these few minutes to allow yourself to benefit however you need from all you just did. Just by letting yourself completely and fully relax. want to deepen and lengthen, feeling that sense of wanting to move again, gradually coming back into fingers and toes, your hands and feet. You know, you can stretch everything long, you can draw your knees on in if that feels better to your back. And you know you're welcome to roll to either your right or your left side. If that's comfortable for you to do, you can come into a soft fetal position and maybe even use your arm as a pillow. Let yourself rest comfortably there to just allow a little transition time and appreciate the ground a little bit longer. So that when you do feel ready to rise up, it feels it's kind of like the next natural thing to do to start to get back to sitting with your head up above your heart again, and sitting comfortably too. So get easy in your hips. Let yourself keep your eyes closed if possible so your focus stays inward as you adjust up through the top of your head, and feel your sitting bones drawing downward. And then letting yourself watch your breath again now that you're upright again. And on your next exhale, letting your hands come gently to meet there in front of your heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.